Here in Thailand, face is often described as a huge melting pot of confusion, contradiction and compulsion. But how does it affect your lives as expats living here long term, or does it affect them at all? That's what we're going to be trying to find out in this video. But first, let's get to somewhere a little bit quieter. So welcome to Surviving in Thailand Part 5, the whole issue of face. And to start with, I'm going to simplify the whole meaning of face. It basically means credibility. If you do something credible, you gain face. If you do something not so credible, you might lose face. Now I say might, because there's a lot of different ways that face is measured. So here's an example. I walk out of 7-Eleven and I slip on a banana skin really theatrically. I land on my arse, and it is really funny to everyone watching, standing all around. So what do? Do I lose face by getting angry at everyone laughing, standing up and storming off in a huff? Or do I just accept the fact that I've been a bit of a silly sausage? I should have seen the banana skin on the floor in the first place. Stand up, smile, take a bow, and stroll off into the sunset. I haven't lost any face doing that. So that is one example of face. So let's have a look at the bigger picture here, east and west, some of the differences. And in the west, for example, face and status is something that is generally seen as earned through hard work, through proving oneself, getting that credibility, earning your stripes. Whereas here, it can be bought through the acquisition of expensive material goods. But this is not to say that we have to abolish the whole face system in Thailand to improve everyone's lives. No, that is most ridiculous and impossible. Nor is this video an exercise in telling you that the Western system is better than the Thai system. Absolutely not. I'm just trying to demonstrate some of the differences. Face here in Thailand goes a lot deeper into society. The roots of face worm their way into everyone's daily lives. People do stuff with face in mind all the time here in Thailand. It's almost like an absolute obsession. So the next question is, as expats, does face and status play a huge role in your lives? Do you follow the code? Do you embrace it? Or do you not really care too much about it? I would safely bet that a majority of you don't really care too much about it. And yes, it's a very hot day here today, as you may have noticed. But unwittingly, we are part of the huge game of face that goes on all around us here in Thailand without realizing it. Back in the day when I used to apply for teaching jobs, my resume said British Thai as my nationality. I thought that was advantageous to prospective employers because they would see that I was British, native speaker, but also Thai, so they wouldn't have to spend time and money getting me a work permit. But I soon learned that there was a negative side to this. I remember getting phone calls asking me, how Thai do I look? How black is my hair? And if my skin was white. Yes, believe it or not, that was absolutely true. Anyway, I didn't get any of those jobs, but this is a classic case of a school wanting to gain face by having a foreigner who actually looks like the perfect foreigner. In those days, if you had a pulse, white skin, blonde hair and a white shirt, you got the job. As English teachers, you are part of the face system, whether you like it or not. You've got to play along, basically. And a lot of new teachers, when they realise that they've got to do this, it leads to disillusionment, burnout, anger and disbelief, which is unsurprising because just imagine this, you teach your students for the whole term And you've got the smart students who are going to pass the exams through merit. And then you've got the students who contribute nothing to classes, hardly ever turn up, lazy, say nothing. And some don't even actually turn up to the exams, but they've still got to pass. And if they don't, it's your fault. The parents will complain about you because the parents lose face. You can't let the kids lose face because it upsets them. So this whole part of the education system is something that comes as quite a surprise to a lot of new teachers, and I'm not surprised. I was trying to get some paperwork handed in, and it required 14 signatures on 14 separate sheets of paper, and the old lady dealing with my case was not very nice actually. And I signed all 14 sheets, handed them to her, but she spotted a tiny discrepancy on one of the signatures and wouldn't accept it. I tried to explain that she'd just watch me sign all this. Anyway, a younger member of staff comes in to pick up the paperwork to hand it in to be approved, but this old lady has now put a stop to it due to this one tiny discrepancy on one signature, even though all the paperwork's present and correct. So I couldn't get done what I went there for. I had to do the whole process again through someone else, just so I wouldn't have to deal with this old lady again. Well, some of you may be wondering where I am and what's going on around here, so I thought I'd just take 30 seconds to fill you in on some of the details. This is the Klong Prem Prachikon Canal. I'm in an area called Bangkok, which I recently made a video about, which will be recommended at the end of this video. What they're doing is they're reinforcing the banks of the canal to protect against flooding. And in order to do that, they had to move on a lot of canal communities who had lived here for many decades. And as a result, they're homeless. But the government have got together with a couple of organisations and the Royal Thai Army to build them new social housing. And they didn't have to do that because the canal communities were actually encroaching on government land all these years, and the government just turned a blind eye. But these communities get to live in proper housing with proper sanitation and privacy and great facilities. So everyone's a winner all round. There's more details in the Bangkok video that will be recommended at the end of this one. Well, you may or may not know that is Wat Samianari, very beautiful temple indeed, and it's also known as the Temple of Cats. And at one point, as you saw, I was completely surrounded and I was feline really scared. Feeling really scared, feline, get it? That's a joke for you new subscribers. On social media, there's always a lot of foreigners complaining that they're having trouble crossing the roads here in Thailand. And I would imagine some of those foreigners are the entitled types who most likely walk out and expect all the cars to stop just for them. That is not the way it works here. Pedestrians do not have the right of way, unlike the civilized West. But what can you do about it? Not a lot, to be honest. The best thing is to wait until there are absolutely no cars, then cross, or just make your way to a footbridge. I did know a couple of foreigners down the years who embraced the whole face concept. There was a guy who was suing his former friend, another foreigner, for defamation because they'd had an argument about him selling out, abandoning his foreign friends to pursue a job at a Thai marketing company. And basically he was one of these social climber types who would arse-lick his way into any potential position, and in the process had fallen out with all his foreign friends. I don't know what became of this defamation lawsuit. Not much, I think, otherwise I would have heard it. But I did hear a couple of years later he had got a high-flying job somewhere, and he was going to sue a lady who cleaned toilets because this lady was mopping the floor when he was in the toilet and brushed against one of his shoes, and he tried to claim that his shoes were ruined. And then all of a sudden I never heard anything about him, and he disappeared. Hopefully died a very painful death. So as we come to the end of the video, have we come up with a solution to end face? Isn't that the idea? Well, not really. It's one of those things that, as we say in London, is a tough nut to crack. And it's a system that's been set in stone for a long, long time, not just in Thailand, but the whole of Southeast Asia. So it leaves me to say, I hope you've enjoyed watching. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you want to support the channel and buy me a coffee, that would be absolutely fantastic. Or you can join the channel and become a member. Anyway, until the next video, I will see you soon.